Hello, guys. Welcome back to the Why But We Have Issues podcast. I am Matt.
I am Carvell.
And I'm Chris.
And today we will be talking about the whole SNAP debacle, whether or not it will be funded, should it be funded, who is going to fund it, how are they going to fund it, and what is President Trump going to do about this?
So in 1939, the federal government launched the first food stamp program, and they just called it the food stamp, actually, in response to what was going on at that time in the country, because we were at a time where there was a big surplus with the farmers, and there was also widespread poverty and unemployment. So from 1939 to 1943, the government launched this food stamp. I'll call it a pilot almost. And it ended in during World War II because we had to put more focus on the war effort. But it came back actually in 1961. And in 1961, they started it as a pilot program under President Lyndon B. Johnson. And he signed the Food Stamp Act of 1964. So at 1964, that's when we actually started the program. The program did change over time, and it changed in 2008 to SNAP, which stands for the Supplemental Nutrient Assistance Program. And SNAP is something that a lot of Americans benefit from. It is said that nearly 42 million, I believe it is, Americans are on SNAP. And that number is now in jeopardy, or 42 million Americans are now in jeopardy of not eating or having a really bad Thanksgiving.
Yeah, and just for perspective, that's about 12% of our population right there that's on SNAP.
A lot of us in the country, we know somebody that's currently using SNAP.
Some of us have been on SNAP in our lives.
Yeah, I was on SNAP during college, you know.
Same.
So college years, it was rough, you know, and I remember before I got on SNAP, I was eating ramen noodles, and ramen noodles I had at least 2 days out of the week, and I had bread, and sometimes I would have burgers, you know, and when it was permitted. And McDonald's and Burger King and all those places were expensive to me because I just didn't have money as a student, you know. Now, you know, obviously not a college student, I don't necessarily need those benefits, but I do see SNAP as being very beneficial to a lot of Americans, especially. And I don't think it necessarily depends on what side of the aisle you are. I think all Americans, whether you're conservative, liberal, Republican, Democrat, ASB, everyone can use SNAP as a benefit, and not everyone needs SNAP. I know, Chris, that you said that you used to be on SNAP. How did that work out for you?
It worked out great. I was wasting so much money before that and being incredibly impoverished. Living on my own when I was attending school the second time. I honestly wish I would have gotten on it sooner. I don't look down on anyone for taking advantage of welfare programs because there's no difference in my mind of using a welfare program and taking a tax write-off on your taxes. One is getting it on the front end, the other one's getting it on the back end. So if you're the sort of person that always looks for exemptions on your tax form and, you know, talks bad about people who may be on welfare programs, you know, guess what? You're on a welfare program too when you do that. So pot calling the kettle black. Stop doing that. If anyone ever has an issue with those programs, what they need to do is look to what are the requirements to get on the program. And that's where the issue is. It's not the issue of somebody taking it. If the government says you can have it, go get it. There's no reason not to. You're only hurting yourself because all of these things are done to improve your life situation so that you are a more productive citizen, so that you do get ahead in life and grow the GDP, grow the economy, and improve not just your life, but the lives of everyone around you, because we all operate in a society that has its own systemic solutions for that. To that kind of effect, SNAP is one of the most important welfare programs that we provide in this country. There is nothing worse than going hungry. There is nothing worse than not just not being able to provide food for yourself, but to provide food for your children. That is a horrible feeling. Mm-hmm. And this is the necessary help that the government can provide. We're going to get into that a little bit later in this episode, but just full disclosure, SNAP is a good thing. We need to support it. We need to keep it going.
Yeah, certainly. I don't think anybody is really in disagreement. Maybe some rich people. The main thing right now is I don't believe there's ever been a time that essentially the rug has been pulled out from under people. SNAP has, since its inception, always been funded. There's never been a governmental shutdown that has interrupted flow. And we're in uncharted waters here. This is, like you said, Chris, there's never been a government shutdown that has gone on this long. Neither party's ever dug heels into the sand like this. But I think we all know this isn't your typical administration. Who would you guys put more of the blame on for the shutdown? Right now, there's a big conundrum. Is it Republicans? Is it Democrats that have shut this down? Who would you, if you guys had to ascribe blame, and you can do it in percentages, you can 50-50, 60-40 if you want to do it that way, who would you guys say? Who would you blame?
I would personally blame Donald Trump. I wouldn't blame anyone but him. A couple reasons I'll blame him. Number one,
I know where you're going with this. And I think you're correct. Go ahead.
Yeah. Number one, he was recorded as saying that, from his own words, so you got to live by your own words. If any government shutdown happens, the first blame should come from the president. The president is the person to blame. That's what he said. I think he said that in 2015 or 2016. That's him. Number two, the last time SNAP payments were genuinely at risk due to a shutdown was in 2018 and 19. And guess who was president? Mm-hmm. And guess when the longest shutdown happened? I think the last 3 or 4 recorded longest shutdowns, including this one, has been under President Donald Trump. And it's because there's politics, people are always playing chess. Yes, we understand that. I will say this, politicians, at least they have been in the past, they're careful of letting this chess match happen at the expense of the American people. But now it's coming to the point where if I don't win, all hell is going to break loose. So I'm willing to sacrifice the American people's state of mind or comfort in order to win. And that's where a lot of this issues come from. I think with the Republicans and the Democrats and, conservative, liberal, this is something that's common, right? It's a chess match. It's politics, right? Now it's getting to the point where people are sidelining the importance of this program or these incidents to the American people, so that's where we're having the issue right now. But I would put probably around 90 to 100% of the blame on Donald Trump.
Chris, what is your thoughts on that?
I think it's mainly on the Republican side, because I'm still of the belief that the Republicans have placed a poison pill in the budget that they've presented that is completely untenable to the Democrats. And I think that the Democrats are at fault for not eating that poison pill and, trying to figure it out on the next go around. But I understand why they're not doing it. I think that if they had placed forth a stronger campaign to help working class Americans in 2024, then we wouldn't be in this situation and they wouldn't have to have a government shutdown. But I mean, it's politics. They only want to keep getting ahead at the expense of the American people.
So I will say, I agree with Carvell. I would put the blame on Trump. Maybe blame is too strong a word. Maybe it's too negative of a word.
Responsibility. Responsibility is probably a better word.
That's a good one. Because Trump is the deal maker, and he's a very shrewd businessman, always has been, and he will squeeze where he knows he can squeeze. And right now, I feel like the Republican Party is kind of really taking heed to his words, and they are using this as a negotiation tactic. Now, however, I'm also with you, Chris. Ultimately, overarching, blame everybody for this. But I'm going to be the odd man of the three and blame more of the Democrats. And the reason that I place the blame on them for this is they're trying to fund something that Americans do not want to fund. Quite frankly, we can't afford to fund. I mean, if we're going to go by the bill and how it was dissected and posted on whitehouse.gov, I know it's whitehouse.gov, and everybody can say, well, of course, it's Trump's White House. We can't play that game. Either you have to believe what's posted on whitehouse.gov or you can't use any of it. It's kind of like the Bible. Apparently, this bill that the Democrats have put forward is going to cost $200 billion in health care for illegal immigrants over the next decade. And so I kind of get why the Republicans don't want to do that. Now,
is that just for illegal immigrants, or
it's kind of a conglomerate of other things.
Okay.
There's like 50 billion of it is going to, and you can
it's not specified that it's going to illegal immigrants.
Well,
it's just it happens to go to illegal immigrants.
Kind of like we were saying, yes, kind of like we were saying earlier before we started. You know, when they say, oh, it's all going to illegal immigrants, it's not like the government is handing the money to illegal immigrants, but the way it's being divvied up, they can possibly take advantage of it. Like one thing that will be cut is like $50 billion in funding to rural healthcare programs, and arguably rural communities have, a lot of immigrants, and they would, seek those services.
Let me ask you a really quick question, Matt.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Do you think it's more reasonable that we spend, how much did you say, $500 billion in the next 10 years?
No. It would be $200 billion over the next decade, and that's
$200 billion over the next day. Would it be more reasonable to spend $200 billion over the next days on next decade on immigrants, or would it be more unreasonable to spend over $1 trillion in the next decade on foreign nationals or foreign countries?
We're getting lost in the sauce on this, because this is $200 billion over the next 10 years for healthcare. That is $20 billion a year on healthcare. That is healthcare that may be accessed by illegal immigrants, but we just gave Argentina $40 billion because we can't let a libertarian state fail. And illegal immigrants don't necessarily have to access this. This is money that is going to go to rural hospitals, like you said. This is money that's going to go to all these places that need it. And if the issue you have for not getting this is because illegal immigrants will get this, then you need to increase your immigration restrictions and have the policy to eliminate the illegal immigrants.
Very good point, and that would be the starting.
That's where you look to. You don't look to not funding hospitals. You don't look to not funding healthcare. Healthcare is going to be completely unaffordable to many people in this country if they don't get the subsidy.
Well, so so let me jump off on this real quick. So there is a provision in this bill that would encourage Medicaid to pay more to hospitals for the care of illegal immigrants. So that's it's almost like an incentive to treat illegal immigrants and stuff like that. But like you said, Chris, it makes sense if that is the main issue, to cut off the immigration, not the funding to healthcare. And so that would probably be where you'd want to start at. And you're speaking my language. If you want to cut off aid to foreign countries, don't threaten me with a good time.
I personally think we're starting, as a country, we're starting to lose compassion for a lot of the people within the country. And I'm not saying that that's something that we should invite illegal immigrants that, hey, come here, we got free healthcare, do whatever you want to. But I think there is an importance of taking care of those who reside in your country. Because as you know, I've traveled some, I've been in other countries, and that same love was extended to me by just being there. For an example, there were times where, I got scholarships that were provided by the government, or, I was able to get the healthcare. I was able to jump on their healthcare system. I wasn't an illegal, don't get me wrong, but it was something that a lot of countries, at least first world countries, thought that, hey, if we're able, let's do it. We'll take care of it, people. And I think what a lot of people are upset about is we've seen, especially the Republicans right now, where they've created this bill that is going to incur a lot of debt for Americans. And I think it was the bill that passed earlier this year. I think it was $2 trillion in the next 10 years or something of debt we're going to incur. But then we're complaining about the $20 billion a year that's actually going to stop SNAP. And it's going to affect other Americans, right?
Right.
So there's nobody going into the middle of the aisle and no one talking between the Democrats and Republicans saying that, okay, hey, we're going to give a little and we're going to take a little.
Don't say nobody. They have Fetterman. Fetterman's on it.
It just seems like it's been the death of moderates. Nobody's coming to the center of the aisle. And I think that's one thing a lot of people has been complaining about lately is that there's no moderates, everybody's either too far left or too far right. And, one of the issues we see that if you're too far left, you're not going to you're going to get nominated, but it's someone that's more centrist that will get elected in the general election. If you're too far right, we do see some of them get elected, but, we don't have people coming into the middle of the aisle. And that's one of the issues that we're going to be having unless we change that, right? And I mean, I know the ASP is one of those parties that can help change that, but we're because of this, we're suffering as American people, and a lot of people who have SNAP. I will say this, and I've said this 1,000 times: they are suffering because of extremism. Too much extremism. Nobody coming in the middle of the aisle. Nobody saying, okay, let me give a little, I'll take a little.
I think as far as SNAP's concerned is SNAP does cost a good chunk of money.
Right.
Let's not dither around that. It costs a lot.
Right. It's expensive.
But yes, the benefits to having it are so much greater. And I think that, well, I mean, it has to be 100 billion, right? Because there's 12%. What was that you said? 12% of the country's on SNAP right now?
Yeah, almost 42 million. Which
yeah,
about
like
12%.
A lot of people decry SNAP because they keep seeing these extreme cases of some lady getting, $4,000, $6,000 in SNAP a month, whatever.
They're buying crab legs.
The majority of SNAP recipients only get like, what is it, like $200 a month or something like that? I think it's not a lot, and the cost to you isn't even that high. If you are a person who's making $60,000 a year, you pay $36 a year for SNAP benefits. So for around $2.50 a month, you ensure that no child, no senior citizen, no disabled person goes hungry. If you are the sort of person who considers themselves a morally upstanding person, a good Christian, whatever, you should have zero issues for that. I give much more money to my church every single week than I do towards SNAP. There's no reason you can't, like, nothing costs $2.50 anymore. Inflation's killed us, and that's still the cost. It's dumb not to have that.
I agree, but just to have it on record, because we know minutes are very important in the ASP, what would you suggest would be, how much do you think that it costs in estimated fraud of that $100 billion budget a year? What would you think the fraud numbers are?
Oh God, I think I've seen the stats on the fraud, and I believe the fraud is almost non-existent. I think it is like less than 1%.
Okay,
Carvell. That's what I've been told.
Fraud. I mean, so what encompasses fraud? Like, are we talking about you know, what we
I
were.
think this is just
That
what
is
they
a very
caught.
good.
This is
That
just
is a
what they
very
caught,
good
though,
question.
right?
Because
I do think there is more fraud than they catch. And so they can't really report on. I mean, I guess surveys would do that. Like, do you know if some?
I mean,
you know,
people are creative, right? People are creative. Like I think it was during.
I think they found
during
less than
Obama
1%.
or Trump administration. I remember when people they just started this new program where you can get your taxes sent to a card, right? And there was so much fraud going on that people would put in these phony tax documents, and they were getting like $100,000 back from taxes. And the only way they got caught is if they try to get a new card or something. I remember that. And so, like, when I think about the fraud, right, there could be families getting multiple food stamps, right? Or there could be, or does it mean that we're switching the food stamps out for cash?
I think it encompasses everything, Carvell. I think the fraud is you are fraudulently reporting the number of people that live in your household, the incomes of the people that live in the household.
So if I'd say
reporting more kids than you have, you're reporting.
So if I say it's everything. If I say it's everything, I'm going to say 30 to 40%. Okay. And that's if I say it's everything. Because I think of I think of people getting money on the side. I know people that are like getting paychecks and not like they don't have to report it, right? They're getting money under the table, but they have food stamps. I've heard of people like, you know, claiming kids or whatever that, you know, they didn't have to, or just I've heard of all these stories, and I've seen some of these stories, right? Mm-hmm.
Carvell, one of us is going to look really stupid in a second.
No. That is not the point.
It's not the point. Yeah, it can't be the point because the reported number, we know that there's going to be more fraud than the actual reported number. But also at the same time, see what you did here, Matt?
No.
This is fine. This is great. What is the number, Matt?
Okay, so it's one of those numbers that plays around and fluctuates. It could be as low as 10 billion, so 10% of the budget. It could be as high as 25 billion is what they estimate, somewhere in there. Carvell, I guess you would be the closest in the answer, but I think Carvell brought up a really good point. What constitutes fraud? Is it like cases of indefinite fraud? Is it cases that are definite? Is it people who are disabled, but are you really disabled?
Right.
You know, it's a weird country where, you know, it's like, I'm disabled. What's your disability? I'm 600 pounds. You should get free food then.
Yeah.
You know,
well, and it's one of those things that we actually talked about before, right? Because to a lot of individuals, some things might be considered as fraud, where I might say to myself, no, that's not necessarily fraud, right? Like, for an example, I think we were talking about last week where we can actually use SNAP benefits. Mm-hmm. So I think I was kind of iffy about the fast food restaurants or stuff like that, you know, where you can get steak and lobsters. But, you know, Chris brought up a point that, hey, or it was either you or Chris, but hey, you know, actually, sometimes you want to be able to go out and have a decent meal. Like, that should be a right for you to have that, you know? Mm-hmm. And, you know, you look at that and you say, like, yeah, I mean, that is true. You know, we all shouldn't feel like we're confined to just eating beans and potatoes, you know?
Right.
Let me have
There's some people who think that that's all the poor deserve.
Right.
And, that are watching this right now that think that.
So I am an advocate of that.
That are in this podcast right now.
So here's the thing with that. I mean, this is kind of RFK. So I had a friend, River. River was like a professional hobo. Like, we used to do long rides together for work, and we would discuss like how to be good homeless people because River had lived that kind of lifestyle, and he had figured out like you can get this package of sugar cookies, and if you ate the serving amount is like 2,000 calories a day, which is typically your recommended caloric intake for the day, and this package of cookies would last you for a week. And so River was like, you know, for $2 you can eat for a week and get your calories in. That's dangerous thinking, and that's how we think about nutrition in the United States: is a calorie equals a calorie. but that's not true. And it's, you can eat 2,000 calories worth of sugar cookies. You can eat 500 calories worth of steak and potatoes. Tell me which one gives you more energy and makes you feel more full. And so that's my issue with SNAP is I don't want people to be able to buy junk food, cake, cookies, things like that. I am in favor of, if you are receiving SNAP, you should have to buy these nutrient-rich, dense foods, rice and beans. That's a good cheap meal. It goes a long ways. So people get mad and they're like, well, what about my birthday cake? And I'm like, if you can't save up $5 throughout the year to get the birthday cake, you're in trouble anyways.
Food stamps goes to people who have no means to make an income, Matt.
Dude, it's $5. We have a gig economy. Like, I can go out and make $5 right now.
If you have like advanced cerebral palsy and you don't have a family caregiver to take care of you, and like there's medical reasons why someone couldn't work that they still receive food stamps because they can't work. I mean, it's part of the disability package. So, okay. I mean, I guess they get a disability check, so like it's kind of a moot point. But regardless, like, I don't know.
Chris, I hear you. Like, I think that makes total sense.
And I think a part of it has to do with it's kind of a dignity kind of thing, because we are. Why are we so judgmental on the poor over the rich, right? Like, why?
I don't like them bastards either. So,
but why are we so judgmental? I mean, I do agree. There is like, kind of like it's part of like the consumerist mindset where we buy crap, we eat like crap, we do all that. I get that. Why are we even giving them? If we're gonna go that route, why are we even giving them the option? Why don't we just have government food stores that hand out the government cheese, and they don't even interact with our grocery stores? They don't even go to Walmart or Kroger or Food Lion or whatever.
I do like that idea because Walmart has some awesome profits rolling in on behalf
we'll get there. We'll get there, Matt. We'll get there. Let's keep this point.
So here's the thing, right? In the mid 2000s, I think a lot of businesses started to complain about that. Like, hey, why do all these grocery stores like Meijer and Kroger, they get access to this money from the government, but we don't have the opportunity, and we're selling similar things? And I think that became a thing, and I think that's a really decent argument that, hey, like if these big chain companies, because they sell these groceries, we should be allowed access to that money. But I mean, that's not the main purpose, right? The main purpose is for people to eat.
In California, I do think that some farmers markets do SNAP.
There's a lot of. I've seen a pizza place do SNAP here. I've seen Wendy's do SNAP here.
Really?
There's certain states like Arizona, California, Michigan, Rhode Island, Maryland, Illinois, Virginia, and Hawaii that they're able to use RMP, which is Restaurant Meals Program. That's the exception. And it lets SNAP recipients who are elderly, 60 years plus, disabled or homeless, use their EBT cards at approved restaurants. This helps those who are who can't easily store or cook food. That makes sense.
Oh, that does make sense. Okay. I always thought the hot food rule was kind of stupid too, honestly.
That's why Outback went down the tube, because all the pores started going there. No, Chris. So something I was thinking about that last night, the hot food thing, and I was like, that doesn't make sense. That's stupid. But then I was like, wait. I was like, how many times have I bought a whole rotisserie chicken and ate like a leg off of it and then let the thing go bad? And so I was like, maybe
you can let everything go bad on the.
Well, you can let everything.
Well, no. The issue is it's that like a restaurant, going out to a restaurant has been seen as a luxury, and that was one of those curtailing the luxuries. Remember when they were going to take pop off of the SNAP benefits?
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Like what?
People are getting angry about that too.
Yeah,
they're talking about soda. I know.
It's called pop
here.
No,
it's pop here.
No,
so you guys say pop in Kentucky too?
Yeah, it's Cincinnati. So yeah.
Cincinnati. It's part of the Midwest. So yeah.
God, we should have won the Civil War. Anyways, It's soda. So okay, well that makes sense. I was just kind of wondering that. I never knew. I was like, maybe it's because of a waste thing. But anyways, going back to where I was. So 10 Box, if you guys don't have that, so 10 Box basically sells everything in the store at cost, and then when you go up to the you go to check out, they tack on 10% to your bill, and that's how they handle their operating costs and their profits. And so that was something I thought about.
That sounds super cool. Honestly.
It is. And it's, I mean, I've been into 10 Box one time and did not like it, but I know a lot of people that shop there. There's pros and cons to it. I kind of see it as like that shrinkflation thing, kind of like at Dollar Tree. There's a lot of people that started to shop at Dollar Tree, and it's like, I'm getting the same canned goods that I get at Walmart. And I'm like, yeah. And they're like,
not per the cost.
The volume, exactly. Yeah, it's a smaller can of corn. But anyways, that was kind of a thought I had, is you shouldn't be able to basically subsidize your business off of SNAP. It's supposed to, this is for the community. This is us as Americans trying to help each other out. And so that's kind of the thought I had, is if you are going to do SNAP, if you're going to participate in the program, you ought to have to submit. And I know this gets convoluted, but again, we have AI, thank God for that, right? And so you would submit like your cost of your goods, and then when you go and somebody checks out with their SNAP card, it would like run through the system, and it would 10% on what the cost of those goods are. That's kind of how I envision something like that working. That way you're not making the typical profit margins off of SNAP that you would.
Well, you can't do that though, Matt.
Why?
Because that incentivizes the creation of food deserts. Like your grocery stores would not operate in areas that have high SNAP usage. That would encourage businesses to, I mean, you could mandate legally that they are required to accept SNAP, but they would try to discourage SNAP usage through other means. And it would be hard to kind of make rules and regulate that. So SNAP has to spend like cash. Otherwise, businesses will disincentivize it. Right. Now, it also has to spend like cash, because otherwise businesses will see it as an advantage to them that they are able to just, because the way the reality is where it works right now. I come from the grocery chain industry. That's been one of my hats that I've worn. And one thing that they do love is people who are on SNAP, because that is guaranteed money coming in every single week or month, I guess, that they have captured, because they can't spend it on anything else. They have to spend it in the grocery store. Like, that's
where I'm kind of like a pseudo-socialist. I don't, especially like you're saying, Carvell, healthcare, SNAP, I don't think you shouldn't make any profit, just not as much profit.
But you can't do that in the open market. Like the only way
we don't have an open market anyway.
It's true. Like this is going way beyond the theme of the episode.
We'll get back.
We're going into
But like the only way you could do it again would be to have just non-profit ran grocery chains. Well,
Mom Bonnie's going to do that.
which I'd be fine with. I'd be fine with nonprofit ran grocery chains that SNAP recipients could go to, but like that's kind of, it would just be like that would be like a segregation kind of thing almost at some eventually. The poor store, it would get the reputation as the poor store, and
you're right.
Like it wouldn't work. So it's terrible. Like there's all these little additional things that make.
Well, do you think that could incentivize a lot of people not to get on SNAP if that happened like that? Because I know that like they still got the food pantry, the food banks and stuff, and
those don't.
For example. Yeah, I got family that go there, and I have family that wouldn't be seen close to that thing, right?
This is another thing. Don't be too proud to get on SNAP.
Right.
Like, if you need it, use it. That's what it's there for.
Certainly. I mean, we've got a government that has de-incentivized people. Used to, back in the 60s, it was like the majority, I don't know the exact figure, but the majority of families had a family garden. most people don't have the time to take care of that, don't have the knowledge, or don't even have the space. Most people live in apartments now. So, no, don't feel too proud. Take the food.
Yeah, and also too, like I remember back in the 90s, if you had food stamps or you're on food stamps, it was something to kind of feel a little shame about. But like now, people have absolutely no shame about they brag about how much they get, how much money they get,
And this is now the only issue I have with food stamps. And this is the fraud that hurts me the most, because I don't know how you fix this fraud. Selling food stamps for cash. That is an issue that I think constitutes the majority of the food stamp fraud. That's what I would bet on. I don't know if that's true or not, but I think that this is like a thing that has become almost, accepted in the communities that are majority SNAP usage. They don't see, they're like, this is my money, I need to get my money, so I'll sell, $2,000 worth of food stamps for $1,200, and I'll use that to, buy diapers, buy alcohol, buy whatever they want,
Diapers. I like how you led with diapers.
Yeah. Well, that's and what, honestly,
cigarettes and beer.
Cigarettes, beer. Well, that honestly, I think that's a lot. I think that's a legitimate complaint that some people have that do that food stamp fraud. Is food stamps don't buy diapers.
Yeah, but
there's no program. There's no government program that buys diapers. I think WIC should provide that. I think WIC should provide an allowance. No, WIC is only supplemental nutrition. Yeah. So WIC will get you dairy. They'll get you like formula. They'll get you like I think there's like little like Cheerios or whatever sort of things.
You can buy.
Yeah, they'll provide that, but they will not. There is no government program other than just straight up cash welfare that will provide for diapers, and I think that should be an allowance given into WIC. Honestly, that would I think cut down a lot of the legitimacy of that fraud. Right.
Yeah. No, you got a good point on that.
Because I do think that there is a reasonable argument to be made that they're not doing anything. It's illegal, but I don't know if it's immoral.
Yeah. You know what? I think Americans, a lot of us, we tend to be too strict in a lot of areas. I mean, yes, fraud is happening. Yes, I mean, but when we were all once an employee, right? And when the manager's back turned, when we knew we were supposed to be working, we kind of took that break that we weren't supposed to take. We kind of like talked to our coworkers a little bit longer than we were supposed to, or didn't do a job we weren't.
I didn't do a job that we were. A couple of 10 pieces at McDonald's when I was working there as a teenager. Yeah, I mean, and
it's not right, but we do it. But we need it. Some of us, we need that like a little slack, a little just forgiveness or whatever and stuff. I mean, of course you don't want anybody to, use the system to buy drugs, smoke weed, buy cigarettes or alcohol and stuff. Of course you don't want that. But, if we stop 20% of them, but we sacrifice the other 80%, come on. Let's not be too harsh unless we can visually see it start to get a little bit too wild, too out of our control.
So also, I'll tell people it's miserable being poor. It's absolutely miserable, and no amount of welfare makes being poor feel good. What is the issue, though? I think is there are quite a few more working class people who struggle in a different way. That they see these sorts of things where. Yeah, I might buy a bunch of cheeseburgers because I got $50 left on my food stamps that I haven't used, and I got to use it. Whereas, I'm working, I'm struggling, inflation's killing me. I don't get to eat cheeseburgers. I got to get beans and rice and stretch that out. Those sorts of situations.
Do you guys, I think it's wild that, because this is, Chris, what you're talking about is actually the psychology of a lot of Americans. And I think it's wild that sometimes in America, we praise billionaires who are able to get a $1 billion tax cut, but then get mad at the person, our neighbor, who's, cheating the system by $20, and stuff. And
oh, it's much worse. It's much worse. A billionaire takes $1 million away from you. You don't care because you don't see it. A poor person takes gets $50 in benefits that you watch them do that at the checkout lane. They're the worst kind of person to you.
Right.
It's ridiculous.
I'm kind of like that meme of the little girl where she's like, why not both?
Do you think there are too many people on Snap right now?
100%.
You think so?
Not 100% of the people. I think there's too many. I think there's too many people on Snap. Well, yeah.
I would probably have to agree with Matt. I think there's a lot. There's probably too many. 42. We're talking about 42 Americans. That's what, like a fifth of our population
is. But
something like that.
But those are who qualify. Do you think that the requirements for the SNAP program are too high? Because I want to bring up that a lot of people seem to have this idea that people receiving SNAP are welfare queens or whatever. Most people on SNAP are working. And in fact, I want to bring this up. The government incentivizes companies to pay people to get on SNAP.
Walmart
gets $10,000 ahead for every employee on SNAP. They get a $10,000 tax credit for every single employee.
Not to mention the money circulates back to the store.
And they get double. It comes back to them double because they pay their employee less, so the employee remains on SNAP because the government doesn't care whether they get off SNAP or not with this job. They only care that they have the job. And in a lot of places, a lot of more conservative states, they've started making mandates that you have to have a job to get those sorts of welfare things. So it incentivizes that driving down of wages of workers even more. But on top of that, they don't care how long you are on there. But Walmart benefits because where are they going to spend that SNAP money?
Right.
They're going to spend it in the store they work because it's easier. So they're not only are they not paying them the whatever let's say $5 an hour they ought to be paying them, they're also getting an additional $5 for every hour they've worked in groceries, because grocery bills for someone who's impoverished tend to be a bigger percentage of their budget.
So just to clarify, when I say there's too many people on SNAP, that's not just like I'm saying there's people that don't need it or deserve it. That's like Carvell's, to his point earlier, it's a very all-encompassing what qualifies, what technically do you mean by that. So we need a better employment environment for one, better economic situation. That will remove some people that shouldn't have to be on SNAP. Not saying that they're wrong for being on it. I'm saying that we need to foster an environment that will take them off of SNAP. There are people who are intentionally underemployed for the reason to get these benefits. I don't like that idea. I mean, I've worked, since I graduated. My first real job was on a drilling rig. So I've worked hard ever since I've been out of high school. And maybe it's just a man thing. Maybe it's the growing up watching how my father worked, but I couldn't fathom not working to my full potential just because there was an easy way out. I'm not saying work yourself to death. I'm not a believer in that either. I'm just saying when you are intentionally underemploying yourself, you're not reaching that full potential. I have an issue with that. And then there are people who defraud the system. I know one guy, this has been years ago, but he was partially deaf and he got on disability. Like, partially deaf, what the hell are you doing on disability, dude? Like, what are you disabled from doing? Like, maybe that test in school where they do the two beeps on either side of you, but that's about the only thing you can't do well.
This is another issue that I've had with many welfare programs that we have in this country, is that there are welfare cliffs where you either qualify or you don't qualify. And I think that the solution to get people to wean off of these programs is not to limit them, but to expand them for less. It's, percentage based. If you are 1% over the limit, instead of getting nothing, you get 99% of it. Right? Eventually, somebody might get $1 worth of SNAP a month. But it should be available because Otherwise, you're incentivizing them to not get a full-time job, because if they got the full-time job, they would just not have any SNAP, and then they'd be in a worse situation, which is what I was talking about earlier, where the working class gets screwed because they work. And the government is disincentivizing people to work, and it's not the Democrats who are doing that, it's the Republicans who are doing that, because they want to have these hard limits on welfare, because they don't want to properly fund these things, and they don't want to fund them in a way that gets people off of welfare, because they benefit when they have this scary boogeyman that they can say, welfare queen, vote us in so we can screw the poor over more, including the working poor. So that's where I have the issue with that.
So what's interesting about this whole thing, going back to the beginning of the episode, so we voted. We've had 13 votes to reopen this, to get this started. And like I said, I was joking kind of in jest about Fetterman, but Fetterman is trying to get people to reach across the aisle, because there's been 13 votes. Democrats have shut it down every time. What they're voting on is essentially a bipartisan bill that was going to keep everything going and was going to fund everything. And all Republicans asked for was a year extension on these Obamacare subsidies, so that they can figure out whatever the hell they're going to do.
Democrats, right?
What?
Democrats wanted the extension on the Obamacare?
No. So that was the thing is the Republicans wanted they said, instead of just continuing this on for another 10 years or whatever, they said, give us a year.
I got it. Okay.
We'll figure this out. And so here's the big conspiracy is that they just want to extend this past midterms, and then they're going to let all that expire. That's absolute lunacy. If the Republicans did that, and healthcare costs doubled, tripled, quadrupled for people, they would never see power again. In all actuality, they'll probably just continue on Obamacare. That's what Trump ran on. I'm going to fix Obamacare, and then came back later and was like, you know what? We really can't come up with, and that's something I respected him for. He came back and said, I can't come up with a better idea than what we have right now. I'm not going to mess with it. And so that to me is, I think that Democrats are really using a scare tactic. They're really playing games here to say, if we vote on this, it's only going to last for a year. Midterms are going to be over. Republicans are going to let everything expire, and then your health care is going to go through the roof. That would be the end of the Republican Party to do that. And I think that's why, it's a damn shame that Fetterman is the most sensible one in the room right now, and is saying, fund this. Let's just get people their benefits. Let's move on, see what happens in a year.
This to me is a lot like defunding school lunches. People tend to feel very strongly about kids eating.
Yeah.
And you never look like the good guy when you say that you want to take food away from children.
No, you never.
Not even the most libertarian of libertarians can look like the good guy and the principled one when they say little kids shouldn't eat. So this is that sort of situation where Republicans are kind of stuck, because there's a lot of Republican voters who are on SNAP benefits right now.
Mm-hmm. There are.
The rural poor, they use SNAP benefits just as much as the urban poor do.
Oh, yeah.
And again, you said that 42 million people.
Oh, it would decimate the Appalachian region.
Oh, God, I know. Oh, yeah. And people don't realize the scale that SNAP takes in these countries or in these states. And that's a good portion of the electorate, too. So you kind of have to concern yourselves with it. I mean, top states on SNAP: New Mexico, 21%. Louisiana, 18%. Oregon, liberal Oregon, 18%. That's a top state that's like that. Your low states are, Utah, New Hampshire, Wyoming, all around 5%. Like, that's still 5% is 1 in 20 people.
Right.
Like, that is not an insignificant number that need this program every single day. We're recording this on November 2nd. I believe it was Friday, maybe, like 1 or 2 days ago. Two different federal judges basically said that Trump has to fund SNAP. I'm not like a legal expert. I don't know what kind of force that could have, because how do you?
Yeah, I don't quite
force
understand
somebody to
it either.
spend money they don't have. I think there is sort of like funds in the USDA that kind of just sit in a thing to provide SNAP benefits. I know that some states are supplementing SNAP benefits.
Louisiana is one of them. The government's going to release.
That's a Republican governor, right?
Yeah, it is now.
Yeah. So I believe there's debate in. I don't know if there's been a decision made yet, but I believe there's debate in Kentucky where Kentucky could use their rainy day fund to help supplement SNAP. I don't know how these judges can force Trump to spend money that there's no access to money.
Well, there is. It's emergency funds.
But those will run out before the end of the month. They'll have to resort to partial payments, which I guess is better than nothing.
Yeah.
How do you guys think of this judge ruling? And is this going to be a sort of thing where the Supreme Court's going to step in and slap them down again for activist judging?
Yeah.
Do you think this is the case?
Yeah, and these smaller circuit courts and all these judges like this have overplayed, and this is why the response to Trump was so toxic. Not saying that you can't feel a certain way and disagree with Trump, but they have overplayed their hand on so many stupid, little, meaningless issues that when something like this that big comes along, most people, it falls on deaf ears. And Trump, quite frankly, at this point, I don't think he cares.
It's the Andrew Jackson philosophy. The courts have made their ruling. How are they going to enforce it?
Yeah.
If Trump just doesn't release the money, what's the penalty?
Yeah,
who's going to hold him accountable?
Branch.
No one. And no one. Congress isn't going to hold him accountable. There'll be a lot of kvetching about it, but no one's going to do anything. The judges only have as much power as we pretend to give them. So this is a very, very big issue with them issuing these rulings like this, because we could just decide to start ignoring the courts. And that will lead to anarchy. That will lead to a constitutional crisis. And is it worth it over these sorts of issues? I don't think so. You want people to be fed, but you don't want that. I mean, do you want that at the cost of the Constitution?
It doesn't take a rocket scientist to see that the inevitable conclusion of this, like you're saying, Chris, is going to be anarchy. And, I don't necessarily think Trump has done anything illegal. I think he's played around in gray areas. I think he's walked a line.
The one thing I would like to know is, why do these necessary programs get shut down if the government can't get together? We have, Social Security still goes through. That's like a required payment. In business, right? You have your fixed expenses and your variable expenses.
Right.
Why are these necessary programs like SNAP not considered a fixed part of the budget that you can't touch? Like, you can adjust it. Like, I would love it if there were designations of things that have to be funded.
Right.
Even if, because I don't know about you, but I'm pretty sure the government's still going to collect my taxes. So the money's there. The government's still collecting my taxes. The government's shut down. Who's getting my money that comes out of my paycheck every week? Who's getting that if they're shut down? It's going somewhere.
Just put in a big vault like Scrooge McDuck.
So if my money is going to them, spend it on the things that keep kids fed. Spend it on the things that are needed to make society function.
And you know what's even more of a kick in the nuts is that this is happening. I think I mentioned earlier, but it's happened during Thanksgiving. So
I was going to bring that up. Yeah,
a lot of people, they're going to have a bad Thanksgiving. Do
you think that's intentional?
Yes.
Do you think that was something that they considered when they started this shutdown idea, that it would bleed into the holidays?
So
Do you think they have? Do you think they have the intention to start up the government for?
I'll tell you what. If most of the blames, because I think it seems like, people are still blaming Democrats, but most of the blame is going to the Republicans right now. I think I saw a statistic that it was like 65% or 60% were being blamed to the Republicans, and 35 or 40%, 35 maybe was being blamed to the Democrats.
Those people don't exist in our comment section, by the way.
Which is it's absolutely that's absolutely crazy to me, because like I said, there's been 13 votes and the Democrats have shot every one of them down. The Democrats are the ones who brought this unfavorable bill forward. So
but here's the thing about it, though. People
die on Obamacare. Obamacare is literally the only program that the Democrats have left that was a success.
And even
that's the only thing they have. Otherwise they're just going to give the whole country to the Republicans forever.
And here's the thing, that the viewpoint, right? The viewpoint is the Republicans control the government. We have an understanding that the Democrats have little to no control. So when we think subconsciously that the Republicans control the government, we're saying that the Republicans are the ones that have the ability to open the government, but they're doing absolutely nothing about it. And they're actually letting this prolong, just as they did back in 2018. It's prolonging. So it's one of those things that we see right now that the American people might not know the gritty details of the shutdown and why the government shut down, but we see who the leader of the government is. And then that's Donald Trump, and then that's the Republicans.
And it's kind of funny that there's really only one party that seems to shut the government down every time.
But here's to Carvell's point, I've seen this criticism, but what would happen if the Republicans are like, hey, look, we're in charge of the whole shebang. We got the House, we got the Senate. We're going to do what we want.
Branch.
Yeah, we've got everything. So we're going to basically employ the nuclear option and screw you, and we're going to do what we want to do. We would never hear the end of it.
I mean, that's actually kind of what's happening right now. In my viewpoint, right? So
but the Republicans have put forward something. They have put forward a non-partisan solution. It's just the Democrats have dug in now. Like I get it. It might not be what the Democrats want, and it's certainly probably not going to be everything the Republicans want. There has been a solution offered, but they have dug in so hard on it. Now,
I don't know the details of the solutions that are being brought forth, but I know that with the Democrats, the healthcare is something they don't want to budge on, and you have some Republicans that are going on the other side of the aisle, and trying to.
This is where I think this is how I think this is going to end up, guys. I think that the budget is going to mostly pass as is. I think that the Democrats are going to get an extension on the Affordable Care Act stuff until just before the 2028 election. Because they're going to use that, they're going to weaponize that for the 2028 election, depending on the situation that exists at that time.
And honestly,
that is my idea. That is my prediction.
And you know what? Honestly, the Republicans would probably favor that because, like I said, the conspiracy theory is they're trying to just draw it out till after the midterms. If you did that, it puts the ball in the Democrats' court. They're the ones.
There needs to be a budget. Otherwise, I feel that is I think that is a very big constitutional crisis if there is no funding of the government. You can't not fund the government for a whole year. There's no way.
What's been the longest? Hold on. I think we've shut down the government for a pretty long time. Under the last Trump administration.
The longest government shutdown in U.S. history lasted 35 days from December 22nd, 2018 to January 25th.
Oh, it was only 35 days?
Yes.
Well, we're coming up on it.
Yes. Yes, it is 35 days. Prior to that, it was shut down for 21 days in 1995.
Okay.
And 16 days in 2013. So we are entering uncharted territory. right now.
How many days has it been?
It's going to be 33 tomorrow, I do believe.
So by the time this airs, if the government is shut down, congratulations, we're in the longest government shutdown ever.
Wow.
Which I predict to be accurate.
But we have a ballroom.
How do you think the American Solidarity Party views this situation? What do you think the American Solidarity Party has to say about the program in general? And what do you think they would do and what ought they do?
I feel passionately that the American Solidarity Party absolutely do not like what's going on right now. And they absolutely disagree with people not getting their SNAP benefits. They don't like the shutdown. And I believe wholeheartedly, I could be wrong though, that the American Solidarity Party thinks that, the Republicans are in the wrong. I could be completely wrong, but I think that this whole worrying about paying $20 billion of healthcare to illegal immigrants should not be a cause to shut down the whole government, and especially have American people not having the opportunity to eat. That's just my personal opinion. I don't know exactly if everybody in the ASP would agree with me, but I feel like the great majority might think similar to what I just stated.
No, I think you're 100% right. I think it's kind of a unanimous agreement throughout the party. And, I always emphasize we do have, just like any other party, there's different factions. We do have the more leaning to the left side of the party who just want to fund this outright and think this is the worst thing that's ever happened. And then there's those of us kind of like me in the party who don't like the method of what's going on right now, but also understand that SNAP is broken, just like every freaking system we have, and needs to be retooled. But you don't jump out of a plane without a parachute. You don't just let a program completely die without a contingency program, without some kind of transitional plan in place. And so that's kind of where I think the majority of the party on the other side would probably fall, is that SNAP needs to be retooled and reworked, but this is not the time or the place to be playing around with people's, source of food.
I couldn't agree with you both more. SNAP is one of the best ways to feed hungry people in this country. And there's a lot of people that think, oh, you're a Christian party, so why don't your churches feed everyone? Our churches are feeding people. We do it every single day, every single week. We're operating those food banks and food kitchens. And guess what? They're not prepared to feed, they are not prepared to handle the volume that would come from SNAP. If you're only planning to have, 4 people come over for dinner and then 40 people show up, well, it looks like you're having spaghetti tonight, because it's the only way that you're going to be able to make it so that people get properly fed. And if there would have been a trickle down of slowly weaning more and more people off over time, yeah, probably charities could step up and handle some of that. Mm-hmm. They shouldn't have to, because that would be a theocracy at that point. You're just relying on the church. You're giving the church that power over feeding people instead of the state. And then people wonder, what the hell am I paying taxes for? What the hell am I voting for if the state's not doing anything? In that regard, yes, those food banks at churches, those should be supplementing an already existing program that has been working very well, even in spite of the fraud. America is one of the few countries where food insecurity is almost not a thing.
Shouldn't be.
It should never be a thing, but we are really showing our chops as one of the richest countries in the world by making sure that we don't have starving people in the streets. We don't have little children begging on the street corner so that they can get a loaf of bread. That used to happen back in the day. We don't have that anymore. And I never want to go back to that sort of situation. And I think the party doesn't want to go back to that situation. And so even for all its flaws, keep SNAP going. Make sure it gets funded. Again, I don't see why it's reliant on congressional ransom to get out to people. I think that's kind of a ridiculous systemic problem. What I think the party is going to do is, they probably, I mean, if this goes on much longer, there really should be a statement about SNAP and what we need to be reaching out to our elected officials to get this going on. I think that what we ought to do is we need to make our voice clear that if we were in charge, this would never happen. We would never use. I think the party needs to make this, kind of make the statement that we would never hold people's food ransom for our political advantage. And that's one of the differences between us and the duopoly that exists, is we're not here to play games with people's lives. We're here to make your lives better, to improve your situation, to improve the country. That's why we are here. That's why we are running as a party. That's the entire point of this podcast. So that you guys know we're not here to play games.
I know the general beliefs of the party and the people that are in it, from what I've experienced, members of the ASP are willing to put our money where your mouth is. So if the God forbid, yeah, you like that? Yeah,
I like it.
I'm gonna trademark that for my run. But no, seriously, like if God forbid this run goes on into the holidays, don't be afraid. Please reach out to your local church, your friends, your family. Just let people know what you need. And as Chris said earlier, don't be too proud to take it. That's what we're here for. I think everybody in this party I know well enough to say we'll do what we can. If there's something that we can't do, that's something I've always prided myself in. If I can't take care of it, I can figure out the person that can. And so, yeah, don't be too proud. Just reach out. Everybody check on family members, check on your friends, your coworkers, see how they're doing. It might be kind of a light holiday season. Might have to cut back a little bit, but we can get everybody through this. Well, thanks for listening with us again, guys. Don't forget to like, subscribe. Please comment on the videos. Really helps us out in the algorithm. I'm Matt.
I'm Carvell.
And I'm Chris.
Until next time, thank you guys.